was previously creating content that was for a younger generation, and the platform was YouTube, and now the platform's Snapchat, and now the platform's TikTok and all the rest of it. Art is just content. It's just brilliant content, and the platform for it is a stage or a theatre. So I think it's all kind of the same. It's how you can create content that truly inspires, connects, and brings audiences together.
Thanks for joining me here at the Summit. We're here to talk to amazing inspirational leaders throughout the country on their personal journeys through work, through their life journeys, of where their summit is and where they're on the journey. Today we're here with Randel, who is leading Factory International, an amazing new cultural space in Manchester, and we're here to learn all about it. Let's just kind of go back. Where did your career start, and what was inspired you at that stage in your life?
Yeah, it's hard to always track back to where the start actually
when was
begins,
that moment?
you know. I was from a working class background in Nottingham, and my family worked incredibly hard to give me the opportunity to go to university, and I had the choice to go to a good university and see how far that kind of academic path could take me. I'm not a natural student. I was awful. It was so bloody hard. I'm dyslexic. It was a challenge. Basically, to get into my university, it was an academic university, I had to study something of academic discipline or repute. So I studied English literature, which, being dyslexic, was probably a challenge, you know, that I probably didn't need to put on myself. And then to complement that, I did film. Started working in film, ended up in an apprenticeship in Canada, working for an Oscar-winning director, making some documentary, and just blown away by the medium and the sector, and just such a big film enthusiast anyway. And then I went to work in film, and I was talking to you early on about this film production, kind of bringing that all back, but I quickly realised that it wasn't quite for me, you know, the waking up at 4 a.m. to get the first light, and then filming the evening scene and getting to bed by about 2 a.m. and then production life wasn't for me. I tried my hand in editing and realised that you just don't see your family or friends for weeks, and you sit in a dark box moving images around screen. So yeah, I loved it, but I realised that maybe working in front of camera or behind camera wasn't lighting my fuse. And I think actually there's something about taking a step back and saying, I always thought this was going to be my dream, you know, working in production, working on set, and then you take a step back and say, actually, I just don't feel that connection. It doesn't spark a fuse for me. And what I did realise that did get me excited was you can approach problem solving with creativity. So thinking about how you can be creative in strategic roles, and actually started working in digital marketing for film and TV companies. And that was the catalyst, really, starting to look at strategy, how we can get film and TV companies to build new relationships with audiences that they traditionally hadn't been able to reach because it was digital content revolution, all that good stuff. And it was a propelled trajectory from there, really, getting in at the right time, working in that digital content space, working for Universal Pictures on their digital strategy, then at Endemol Shine, about their kind of how they could build that original IP for new digital audiences. And then I suppose my trajectory to Factory International, you know, I went into the education space for a little while and started to realise that I wanted to build a career around social purpose and find, you know, meaning. And everyone that I was working with, brands, partners, all were looking to find meaningful connections with audiences. And I think that generation, you know, the younger generation, if you don't stand for something, if you're not positive in the way your brand or your content is looking to connect, then you'll just fail to really have a relationship with that demo. And so I suppose Factory International approached me about this incredible new cultural project that's taken over.
Tell us all about it. It's very new, so I'd love to hear more about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Factory International is a generationally defining cultural movement in the North. It's going to be an exceptional venue that's going to re-energise and re-galvanise an area of Manchester that's been neglected for a fair while. It's down in the St John's estate, which is home to Granada Studios and Coronation Street, but it was kind of locked off to Manchester for a long while. And now it will have a world-class arts and culture venue at the epicentre of a new cultural district.
Wow.
It is a very ambitious project. Hopefully you'll be able to see some visuals and understand kind of the visual architectural.
It looks stunning. I mean, yeah.
It's a phenomenal, memorable building. You know, it really stands out. But the whole concept was how you can create an arts and culture venue that has a hybrid purpose. So instead of just having a music hall, instead of just having a gallery space, instead of just having a theatre, all in isolated locations around a city, this kind of brings it all together so that you can have multidisciplinary artistic experiences happening in their own space in the venue or taking over the entire space itself. And then the real trick, the rabbit out of the hat kind of moment with the building is all the doors slide in and out, so you can actually partition it or you can open it up. I wish it was at the click of a button, but it actually takes people to manually
hard work.
move the walls around the venue. But no, it's going to be a sensational project, and also it will have a public realm, and it will have a lot of space for people that traditionally don't think the arts are for them. You know, not necessarily confident enough to commit to buying a ticket. We're trying to bring a bit of that South Bank kind of energy, celebrating the River Irwell. We'll have a public realm with some green spaces, which Manchester is desperate for. So it should have a nice appeal to everyone in Manchester, feel like they can come and get a bit of sanctum, get a bit of an escape from kind of the urban city. So I'm hoping we create that kind of green oasis for the city as well.
And when is it due to be opened?
So we're going to be celebrating it with the festival this year.
Okay.
So we've got our main exhibition, Yo-Yo Kusama, happening in the warehouse in June.
Wow.
And we'll be gearing up to our main opening with an exceptional programme that we're launching called Free Mind with Danny Boyle, who's reimagining the Matrix, a host of performers, dancers, and immersive kind of theatre. So.
And how long's this project been in the oven for? I assume, has it taken a long time to kind of, I guess,
you'd think it was slightly overbaked, right? It's been in the oven for a fair while. I think it's fair to say. No, look, it was ideated a good while ago, really, and it was all about how, during that levelling up agenda for the North, how people could actually introduce new money into this part of the cultural ecology. So that was always the emphasis, really, kind of back in the George Osborne days, which was thinking about, you know, his commitment to levelling up, but not just realigning money from one part of the North to the other. It was about how you can make a significant investment into kind of a levelling up agenda.
How difficult has that been in practice to really say, well, how do you find that new money? How do we really make Manchester the place to invest this rather than London, for example? Has it been difficult, or
the commitment that's been made is outstanding in terms of the amount that has been committed to the project. Whether it's hard, I mean, I would flip it on its head. I'd say it's no time for it to feel those significant investments come into this part of the UK. And then if you start thinking about Manchester as a city, it's always been a city that's a disruptor. It's always been an innovator. It's always been culturally enlivened. And so if you're thinking about a destination where you'd say, actually, if we want to create a cultural pivot in some other area of the UK other than London, Manchester's got all the ingredients to make that a success. Very young city, very creative city. There's great energy. There's already great hospitality. You can feel the growth of the city happening kind of every time you visit. There's something changing. So I'd say it's absolutely an essential and logical decision for government to be making, to think about these big investments outside of London.
You know, what an amazing kind of, you know, as you said, a cultural pivot. What a great word, right? Really injecting that into Manchester and the North is going to be fascinating.
The ambition of the creative work that will be exhibited in that space will be world class. You know, we'll go there and see things that completely blow our minds and broaden our horizons. That's a fact. That will just happen because of the scale and the dynamism of the building. Now, to have that type of creative work happening in a city like Manchester, no one can expect how radically that will impact their expectations of what art and culture should look and feel like, you know. So people will go there and all of a sudden their benchmark or horizons for exposure to world-class artistic and cultural work will elevate. And even if you don't like the show, I always think, well, you know, it will just expand your horizons from the thing that you liked the least previously, and then all of a sudden that wasn't so bad, and you're like, actually, you know what? So no, I think it's gonna be radically beneficial to people in Manchester.
And one of the things I'm personally really excited about is, you know, how you inspire young people, and you know, what kind of things are you thinking about to ensure that young people today can access this inspiration that you want to provide to them, maybe that can't afford to? I mean, how are you thinking about that?
So everything we do at Factory International is underpinned by commitment to communities, and a massive part of that commitment are to young people that haven't traditionally had the access or privilege to think the arts are for them. So we run a program called Factory Academy, which is set up to provide pathways for young individuals into a creative sector that maybe has neglected them or seen unattainable previously. That's through a huge range of programs, everything from kind of really focused apprenticeships through to traineeships, short courses, understanding that we've got to go to them. It's not all about getting them into a lecture room and having that kind of really traditional disciplined academic study. We've got online courses, we've got light touch bases. We just want people to engage with us and to learn and to get excited. So I think that's from the educational perspective, connecting with young people. That creates pathways literally into our organisation. We've hired a number of individuals. It gives them the opportunity to get themselves jobs and careers in a broad range of sectors, not just in the arts. They're learning skills about project management, data literacy, they're learning things about production, technology. So hopefully it's a pathway into really expansive and exciting careers. And then young people, generally, the programme needs to embrace young artists and creatives. We need a space where they feel like they can learn their trade, maybe pilot things, but then think, actually, I want to take over this exceptional creative space in 5-10 years. How do I build my craft to a level where I can put productions on of that scale? And then there's going to be lots of music. There'll be lots of music and gigs and raves happening in the venue, so it should feel like a really vibrant, young and cool space.
I guess the arts world is completely been, transformed, disrupted, whatever you want to call it, by kind of digital opportunities, whether that's AI, whether that's Web3, and so on and so forth. How are you thinking about that in this building?
The vision statement for the organisation is Invent Tomorrow Together. It's all about forward-thinking approaches to creating engagement through the arts. So an example of that, we've already built the factory in the gaming engine Fortnite. So you can actually go into Fortnite and you can descend onto the factory, and that's kind of commissioned and being created by a range of different artists, which just, again, understanding how to reach audiences that traditionally
That's very cool.
Wouldn't feel it as accessible. Collaborating on platforms that they're already familiar with and excited by. But you've just touched upon, what is a technological revolution that's happening right now with AI, and what is the potential for those experiences to create truly new work in the art world is exciting. And I wouldn't have any examples as to what the future looks like quite yet, but it's with us. We will see that that technology really transform how we create and engage people with art content.
Well, it's interesting. There seems to be convergence. It's really interesting, your career history, almost from a content creation, creativity perspective, merging with the arts world, digital art, digital creativity. The new careers of the future there. It feels like a really exciting space.
Yeah, I simplify it when people say, well, what's the relevant experience you've had in your career to shift to this, and just say, when I was previously creating content that was for a younger generation, and the platform was YouTube, and now the platform's Snapchat, and now the platform's TikTok and all the rest of it. Art is just content. It's just brilliant content, and the platform for it is a stage or a theatre. So I think it's all kind of the same. It's how you can create content that truly inspires, connects, and brings audiences together. I try and simplify it even from my own rationale in that framework.
What would your vision for Manchester be in the world stage?
I think Manchester is one of the world's great second cities. I think second cities are where things happen. If you look at Barcelona, if you look at LA, these are cities that just are really culturally exciting and almost don't have to have the same levels of pre-established ways of doing things that you often get in the capital city, which is a lot more around government policy, politics, big business, all that sort of stuff. So I think Manchester is on par with the world's great second cities. I'd love to see more wellness be introduced to Manchester, more green spaces. I think Manchester's a great place to have brilliant pizza, and I love craft beer, so but I'd love to see, as Manchester grows up and grows into itself, more focus on organic foods, green spaces, holistic living, and I think inevitably it'll need to do that because people are now staying in Manchester, students are staying in Manchester, people are actually looking at Manchester as not being a place where they'll transiently experience part of their life. They're saying, actually, I want to have family, kids, and I want to build my life here, and in order to do that, Manchester needs to be able to cater for a slightly older demographic that are not just looking at hip hop chip shop and craft beers, but looking for something a little bit more balanced.
Look, I love Manchester. I think it's exactly, for me, what you say. It's a second city. You go to places like Philadelphia in the US and places like that where you really see that arts and the cultural transformations happening there, and you see the opportunity for that in Manchester. I think it'd be absolutely phenomenal. So yeah, fantastic.
And also just the pride of having the world's greatest creative work happening in the city will mean that we are on par with our contemporaries outside of the UK. You know what I mean? Because people will say, "Oh, did you see that exceptional show?" Yeah. Well, the only place you could see it was Manchester, and so I think that's going to add a lot of. It's going to shift the mentality on a global scale for how people perceive Manchester.
Feels like there's a really interesting space right now. Obviously, with the way the kind of content, Netflix and so on in the world, the way they're kind of commissioning content, feels like the UK is a big opportunity there for us. What's your view of that kind of whole world at the moment? Yeah,
look, I think as a production hub, the UK is doing exceptionally well. I don't think you can really book a production space at a large scale because they are all currently being utilised from everything from Star Wars to The Crown to Netflix's latest series. So the UK's always had a history of incredible high value production quality, and the content we still make is world class, right? There's no doubt about that. I would say there's an interesting. I've worked in that kind of nexus between influencer content and digital platform content and TV and proper drama. Yeah. And I'm really excited to think about what the evolution of TikTok's going to be, what the evolution of creators is going to be. Is it actually that's enough? I'm an influencer and I'm on TikTok and that's my audience and I don't really want to kind of move from there, or is there something else that will evolve out of that? And then AI, we've touched about it a second ago, but now I've just come back from South by Southwest, and some of the technology that enables people without all of the technical skills and the licenses to very expensive production software, it enables them to make movies with 3 actors and they can add AI CGI onto different characters to basically create a cast of 10 or 20 in multiple different locations in fantastical worlds. And so all of a sudden, that democratizes the opportunity for young individuals to tell really high-end, radical and exciting stories. So maybe that, if I was to be a bit of a futurist, I'd say wouldn't be interesting if you could have an influencer or just a young kid in their bedroom with a great idea that is able to produce almost Hollywood scale films and movies in weeks, if not months. And all of a sudden, that's quite mad, isn't it? Because previously you'd need £100 million budget and 100 different people on set, and now actually
looking at creativity.
Yeah, which is that's going to be wild. That's going to be radical. Yeah.
Randel, if you move from kind of, let's call it, commercial-orientated organisations, and you've moved down to kind of a public-funded, more social purpose mission, how's that transition been for you, and how have you had to adapt or not, and how do you find it?
Yeah, it's radically different.
Right.
Night and day different. I mean, the first thing I'd say is I obviously joined this organisation during the pandemic, which was almost the great pause for a lot of people to do huge amounts of self-reflection about who they are in the world, what they want to do, and how we can be a bit more conscientious. And then there was obviously the murder of George Floyd, which had a massive impact with regards to how we all started to really engage with our own approach to equalities, racial justice. And that, for me, is the most unique thing about working in the cultural sector. People are genuinely invested and enthusiastic about creating equity and more kind of equal and just societies. And that, for me, coming from the commercial world, I wasn't very nourished in that sense, because the commercial world, you kind of just get stuff done, and if you've got to rattle a few cages or whatever, you're not the most conscientious in the way that you approach work. So that was a huge journey for me, and I've spent years changing the way that I see leadership and management to be very much more inclusive and more democratic and more sensitive, and understanding actually that individuals now have the right to be themselves and express themselves at work. We work flexibly. If you want to wear your hair out, wear your hair out. If you want to wear makeup or you want to express yourself in any way, then work has to embrace that. And that's been brilliant for me, actually. But it takes a bit in terms of leadership, it takes a bit of nuance in terms of how do you best support people's individuality at work, rather than just expecting them to comply with the way work should be or traditionally has been. So that's a big shift. I think the other one for me would be there's a level of strategic acumen that you get in the commercial sectors, like in terms of project management, data, insights, analytics. People want to know why we made that investment and what did it return. And so that's the question for every commercial business, really. And so you have to be very astute in your ability to answer and respond to that. And the cultural sector's probably been lacking that. And we've tried to introduce lots of that data-centric thinking and getting people to really commit to systems. And if you're an artist that just wants to make great radical work, actually, how much do you care about CRMs or databases? So that's been a journey, but I think a very, very exciting space for the arts at the moment. Then the third thing I'd say is commercial instinct. It's not the most high priority consideration in a cultural centre. It's more, how can we make sure that we inspire lives for the better, if you wanted to put a catch-all on it. So trying to introduce that commercial imperative is challenging. But I do believe that people are starting to see that the arts needs to be a bit of a mixed economy. And there's no reason why having a great commercial hire by Adidas or JD Sports that brings in a really young demographic that have a great experience with the venue, that means that we've got access to a new audience that we can then bring into the arts world. So I think people are starting to understand there's lots of benefits of commercial activities taking place in cultural venues and the cross kind of osmosis of audiences that you can get from that. So I think it's just a great time. I think it's a really exciting time for arts organisations to be thinking slightly differently with this approach to commercial and kind of data informed strategy.
So your own summit, are you on that journey? What would you say your summit looks like?
My commitment really is providing pathways and opportunities for people that haven't had that. Sometimes when you're from working class backgrounds, you can think your opportunities are the sum of your circumstance. That's your horizon is blocked from really exciting and incredible views because that's the environment that you're in. Everything that I want to do with the rest of my career really is about providing access and opportunity. So I think things like Factory Academy, I really enjoyed my time working in ed tech and that was a really, really brilliant opportunity there. And I've got nieces and nephews, and so for me this project opens the door for my family and generations of my family to think that arts and culture is something that belongs to them, is something that they're invited to explore and play. And so that really is my, I don't want to sound cheesy, but it's a North Star, if I can have generations of my family actually think, oh, you know what, that's really interesting. My uncle used to do this crazy thing in the arts world. Maybe we should check that out. That would be the summit, I suppose, if I was to look at it like that.
Inspiring generations. Art's about inspiration, right? And you want to be that, and that's a fantastic thing. Thanks, Randel. Super inspirational. I think what you're doing is really incredible. I think it's going to have a legacy in Manchester for generations to come. So personally, thank you very much, and what an inspiring conversation. And thank you for listening as well and joining us today. I hope you really enjoyed that. If you did, please leave us a review, rate us, and let us know any particular guests that you'd like to see in the future. Thank you very much.